Daniel had always believed that love needed calm to last. Perhaps that was why he fell in love with Helena, a discreet woman, with a deep gaze and a silence that seemed to conceal too many feelings. They lived in a simple yet elegant apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Their routine was predictable. Silent dinners, brief conversations before sleep, weekends that rarely changed. Daniel worked too much, as if part of her was always somewhere else. It was within that comfortable silence that the pregnancy happened. Helena told him on an ordinary evening, without tears or excitement. She simply placed the test on the table and said she was pregnant. Daniel smiled, held her, tried to feel joy, but something inside him didn't follow the gesture. Even so, he promised himself he would do what was right. He would be a father. He would be present. At least, that was what he kept telling himself. As the months passed, the distance between them grew. Daniel never touched Helena's belly. He didn't speak to the baby. He didn't help choose names. He watched everything from a distance, like a guest in a life that was supposed to be his. Helena noticed, but she never questioned it. She simply accepted it. When Lucas was born, healthy and quiet, everyone said Daniel seemed distant. He held the baby carefully, almost fearfully. There was something in the child's eyes he didn't recognize, and it unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. The years passed. Lucas grew. And over time, comments began to surface. Lingering looks, careless jokes about resemblances that weren't there. Daniel laughed on the outside, but inside, a doubt began to take root. A doubt he tried to ignore, but one that never truly left him. Until one ordinary afternoon, an apparently harmless conversation brought a detail from Helena's past to the surface. A forgotten detail. A name. A different look. In that moment, Daniel felt something he had never felt before. The quiet certainty that his life was built on a fragile truth, one about to collapse, and he still had no idea how much it would cost him. After that seemingly trivial conversation, Daniel began to look at Helena differently. There were no accusations, no certainties. Something worse had taken their place. Suspicion. Every gesture of hers seemed to carry a hidden meaning. Every silence grew heavier. One night, while Lucas was asleep, Daniel casually mentioned the name that had come up earlier that afternoon. A former co-worker of Helena's, a man who, according to her, meant nothing. But the way Helena raised her wine glass to her lips, lingering a second longer than necessary, betrayed her discomfort. "It's been so long," she said, avoiding his eyes. "Long enough to be forgotten?" Daniel replied, his voice low, almost too controlled. Helena didn't answer. She only took a deep breath. From that point on, the marriage entered dangerous territory. Conversations became brief, charged with tension. Touch grew rare. At night, lying side by side, Daniel felt Helena's body so close, and yet completely unreachable. Desire was still there, but it came tangled with anger and insecurity. He wanted to touch her, but he also wanted answers she didn't seem willing to give. Helena, in turn, lived in a constant state of alert. Her eyes followed Daniel through the house. There was guilt there. And fear, a lot of fear. One night before dawn, Daniel woke and realized Helena wasn't in bed. He found her in the kitchen, sitting in the dark, gripping her phone a little too tightly. "Do you still think about him?" Daniel asked without raising his voice. Helena closed her eyes for a moment. "You have no idea what I think about," she replied, almost in a whisper. That sentence lingered, echoing long after it was spoken. In the days that followed, Daniel began to notice something he had once ignored. Lucas's features, the shape of his face, the line of his nose, the way he smiled. The more Daniel looked, the less he recognized himself in any of it. The doubt was no longer a distant shadow. It became a constant presence, nearly suffocating. Daniel felt jealousy, not only toward Helena's past, but toward the possibility that he had been living a lie for years. And Helena felt time slipping away. The secret she had guarded so carefully was beginning to demand space. Something was about to be said, something that, once revealed, could never be taken back. And neither of them was truly prepared to face the consequences. The truth did not arrive in the form of a scream. It came on a silent night, when Daniel placed an envelope on the table, one that should never have existed. Inside it was a DNA test. There were no accusations in his voice, only exhaustion. "I needed to know," he said, looking at Helena with a calm that was more frightening than anger. Helena didn't ask to see the paper. She already knew the result. She sat down slowly, as if her strength had left her, and let the tears fall without haste. "He isn't yours," she confessed, "but I never lied when I said I loved you." The ground seemed to disappear beneath Daniel's feet when he heard the name that followed. Marcus, his older brother. The relationship had happened years earlier, in a moment of vulnerability, when Daniel was still far away working too much, absent too often. Marcus had been support, a shoulder, a presence, and he had also been a mistake. A mistake Helena buried alongside her grief when Marcus died shortly afterward. Never knowing about the pregnancy, "I thought keeping it to myself was punishment enough," Helena said, her voice breaking. "I never imagined you would find out." Daniel left the house that very night. Not out of hatred, but because he needed to breathe away from everything that had collapsed. For days, he avoided Lucas. not because of the child's fault, but because every glance brought back a memory that hurt too deeply. When he returned, he found Lucas sitting on the couch, playing with a toy car. The boy smiled when he saw him, unaware of everything. Daniel knelt in front of him, feeling a tight knot form in his throat. He was not his son by blood, but he was the son he had raised. The marriage did not survive. Daniel and Helena went their separate ways, marked by choices that could not be undone. There was no revenge, only scars. Years later, Daniel still wondered whether it might have been easier never to have discovered the truth. But he always arrived at the same conclusion. The truth hurts, but lies destroy in silence. Because some passions do not end when they are over. They remain in fragments,